because we all know what happens when women read. Everything changes.
Yeah.
You begin to see systems of oppression. You begin to be able to articulate what those systems of oppression are. You can challenge them, you can change them, and you can change your life.
Welcome to Taking Care of Lady Business, where we get real about what it takes to succeed, whether it's in business, life, or both. I'm talking to game-changing and visionary women who've broken barriers, built empires, and redefined success on their own terms. They'll share their strategies, secrets, and the no BS advice you need to rise to the top. I'm your host, Jennifer Justice, also known as JJ. Let's get into it.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Taking Care of Lady Business. I'm Jennifer Justice, aka JJ. Today, we have Julianna Glasse. She is the founder and CEO of This Is What Happens When Women Read. And I know you're already intrigued by that title alone. Welcome, Juliana. How are you?
I'm great, JJ. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. And yes, I mean, the title is unwieldy on purpose.
Yes, very provocative.
It's obnoxious on purpose, yes.
Oh my God. I mean, and also probably like, what does she mean by that? So I'm going to I will stop the suspense and let you explain what it is that the company is that you're entering.
Yeah, I would love to. Well, a little bit of background history on me is that I was a Christian pop singer for 11 years, was deeply indoctrinated into a pretty fundamentalist evangelical religion for 30 years.
Can I ask you a question about that first, the pop star stuff? Because,
of course,
I'm from the music industry.
Yes.
I started in the music industry. And so you were like signed to a Christian label and did you tour around the country, the world? Like, what was that? Like, can you just give us a brief?
Yeah. So I was signed with CAA and then did Octagon for like management and stuff. But a traditional label didn't ever really fit for me because my life I had 3 kids and not the whole time I didn't have 3 kids, but like I needed to structure my life because my then husband was also in a traveling career. So I really traveled all over the US and tried to navigate my touring with my then husband's career as well. Right. So we did like speaking, and I did speaking and singing in my shows. So it was like 25 minutes speaking or singing, and then I'd speak in the middle and then I would sing at the end as well.
Okay, got it.
So I was signed with Hachette Publishing for my book writing.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing.
Yeah. So was in that world for about 11 years and really, really loved what I did and loved women. Like that was the heart behind wanting to be a performer and wanting to be a musician, was just serving women. Nothing turns me on like seeing a woman set herself free. Like that is just the coolest thing to witness. And but for me, it was within the confines of this religious certitude. And then I had my 3rd child and I began to just kind of pull at the thread of like, I don't think that I can imagine telling my daughter that her proximity to God is somehow in direct correlation to her proximity to a man, which is what I was.
Was that your first daughter? Your 3rd child was your?
No, she was my 2nd daughter.
Oh, okay.
But by this point I was, 30, 31 years old and just starting to kind of question the fabric of what I had been told was so certain for my whole life. And then I met my first gay couple in Chicago, and Mark and Patrick, they're so amazing. And Mark was a pastor. And I was like, wait, you can't be gay and be a pastor. Like that was just, those 2 things were incompatible to me from where I was raised. Cause it was like when you are a conservative evangelical Christian, you are anti-gay and anti-women's rights, essentially. Mm-hmm. And so I was the artist that Trump had come and sing at the 2017 National Prayer Breakfast weekend. So I was like very deep in that world. But then when I met my gay friends and fell in love with the LGBTQ community, really it was like that certitude began to crumble. It was as if the scaffolding of my whole life began to fall apart because you start to question, you begin to, put on different considerations and listen to different stories. And I started to read.
Mm-hmm.
And I fell in love with philosophy. And the kind of crucible moment when I decided to leave that religion, a man in the church pointed at me and said, "This is what happens when women read." And that for me was the rest of my life. I left the religion and everything that came along with it in 2019. Went back to school, studied at Said Business School, graduated in 2023, and then started This Is What Happens When Women Read. And really, we're a global initiative to awaken the liberation of women all over the world. And I gave my case study at the school on the internal oppressors of weaponized religion against women and girls around the world. And the fascinating exploration for me in that was realizing that this sort of weaponization of a godhead is a universal issue. It's a universal oppression that we're not talking about because it's considered taboo.
Oh my God, there's so much to unpack and all of this.
It's so much. I know.
So let's go back a little bit and then let's get really into the organization and everything. So from the time you met your first gay couple to the time you were like reading and saying, you were leaving the church, how long was that?
3 years.
So over 3 years, like your whole life had like 30 some odd years, you'd been indoctrinated to thinking that this is the only way to live.
Right.
But you had TV and all of that. Were you?
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. And that's kind of the interesting issue with organized religion is that it's very covert in its oppression. It's not overt, especially in Christianity. So when you are taught from a very young age that your heart is deceitful and wicked and you can't understand it, or you're taught the doctrine of depravity, meaning that you have no inherent value and worth in and of yourself, but you have to find it from a Godhead through a man, conveniently. Like you're raised with this very lesser degree of inherent value and worth, especially as a woman. You're sort of a second-rate citizen to God.
Right. So you started reading. What kind of books were you reading?
Philosophy. I fell in love with philosophy. I'm pulling up my sleeve to show you. I have Plato tattooed on my arm now. You can't see him, from the School of Athens, because I read Plato's Allegory of the Cave. And, that was such an incredible allegory for me to read because I was able, it's just sort of the way that I think, having kind of a poetic mind, like, oh, I've been in a cave. Oh, I've been trying to make sense of the shapes and shadows on the wall, but those aren't actually the real objects. This isn't really truth. And so when you step outside of the cave, when you begin to get close to people that are different than you, when you begin to, Whitman says to re-examine all you've learned in your school, in your church, and in any book, and to dismiss whatever insults your own soul, which is just a very profound sense of agency that I had never been told I had. And so when you claim this agency of like, oh, I can listen to my soul, I can dismiss what insults love within me, then that creates really the permission to be able to self-actualize and to discover who it is that you are and who you want to be. And that process for me was the stepping out of the cave.
Right. Wow, what a metaphor too. And so much, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so you're researching, you're reading, and you leave the church, and then that's when you went to business school?
Yes. So I went back a couple of years later.
Yeah.
And was able to do the advanced management program there with Dr. White. I started in my reading, that was during COVID in 2020.
Yeah.
Was really an incredible time for me of that self-exploration and of consuming literature at just a very, very rapid rate. But I wanted to go back to school somewhere that was not Western, white, American perspective. I was like, get me out, get me somewhere where I'm going to be surrounded by people from different backgrounds. So there were 47 of us representing 26 different countries in my class. And it was really the most profound, life-altering experience of my of my adult life.
I can imagine. I mean, you've been there, you've been with the church for this long, and you make this decision. And is it like, that's it? That's the day are you pushed out? Like how, like you must have felt so lonely, you know?
Oh, it's so lonely. Yeah, it's so lonely, which is why we're doing the work that we're doing with This Is What Happens When Women Read, because there is this very in and out cultish perspective to organized religion, wherein if you do not align with these sets of ideologies and theologies, and they will kick you out. So I was brought in front of the church, asked to come in front of the church to repent 4 times. And the process is extremely brutal, like pastors calling me back to repentance, calling me back to the church. And that is not dissimilar from women around the world. So I think that's what was really powerful in this case study, was realizing like, oh, my friend from Morocco, it's the same issue. It's this in and out kind of culture. Oh, my friend from India, because she decided not to enter into an arranged marriage, but wanted to pursue her higher education. Oh, she got kicked out too. Mm-hmm. So it's incredible to witness the ways in which certain institutions will weaponize themselves against a woman when she decides that I am going to self-actualize. I am going to recreate my life in the way that is fitting for me. And those are those powers of control that, conveniently rest upon the assumption that a woman will not self-actualize, the assumption that a woman will stay within the boundaries, will stay within the confines of whatever cultural narrative they've established is right.
Were you the first woman to leave your church that you knew of?
In the way that I did, I think yes. I had one of my girlfriends had moved from college, had moved to LA. And I remember when she moved to LA, I was still very deep in the Christian world. And I remember telling her like, oh, you're going to get sucked into an evil way of living because LA is where the sinners go. Like, don't move to LA, And then she ended up getting a divorce. And I was like, it's because you moved to LA. So that was my perspective was just so incredibly narrow in that respect. So I'm sure there were people around me that had left, but none that received sort of the overwhelming backlash that I received.
Right. So now you were lonely, you go to the school, you now are seeing this whole pattern arise, right?
Yes.
And while you were in the church, did you notice a pattern outside at all? Or were you, what was it like, oh, I can't believe they have arranged marriages? Or, like, did you understand that part at all, that other women in society and civilizations and religions, et cetera, were doing the same thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely did not draw a correlation in that they were I wouldn't have articulated them having been the same, though.
Right.
So for me, because you're in this binary way of in outright wrong, truth versus error way of thinking, my religious convictions at the time were the one true way, right? So like, even when seeing oppression and repression of women around the world, it was like, well, they need to be converted to Christianity and that would solve the issue. Those people are lost. Those people need to be saved. And that's what would sort of mitigate this this oppressive system.
Oh my God, it's so Handmaid's Tale. It's like,
it is so Handmaid's Tale. And you can't see it until you're out of it.
Yeah.
That's what's so wild, and what's so powerful about it is that you cannot see it until you're out of it when you've been indoctrinated into it. It really is the lens through which you see your entire world. It's your philosophy, it's your ethics, your morals, it's your identity, it's your traditions. It paints every single corner of who you are.
Interestingly, I'm not religious whatsoever, but we're all, as women, byproducts of this, regardless of religion or not. And it was interesting. I was listening to this podcast, a Huberman podcast, when he was interviewing a divorce lawyer. And, when men say it, it makes it like even more crazy to think about it. But they were like, I know all these really strong women and they're feminists. And the second they get married, they're walked down an aisle by a man to be like, please have my child. And you're like, they could be in their 40s. It's like, what is that? Yeah. Right. And then they get married and then they automatically take the last name of the guy. It's like as if you are not enough, and it's like, I'm not married. My last name's Justice. That's never changing. But what? And these are like strong women. And you're like, wait, what?
Right.
So it transcends religion. It transcends everything. It's just overarching. So I would love to hear, because now you have that like bird's eye view to be able to see everything 360. Like, what is going on? What are we doing? And how do we fix it? Juliana, tell us all.
Oh my God. No pressure whatsoever.
The next half an hour.
I know, right? I mean, honestly, I think for myself, the through line, I spent about a year going on a listening tour, traveled all around the world, speaking to women, did tons of Zooms with different women that are philosophers and feminists, and then also women in religions, various religions, just to understand the landscape of feminine ideals. And I think the through line that I have discovered is this sense of worth. When a woman doesn't understand that she is inherently love, made by love, for love, inherently worthy, can inherently trust herself, is intrinsically good. When a woman doesn't believe that of herself, well, then that's when you start to reach for a Godhead, for a system, for a safe marriage, for I want a guy that takes care of me, for a like objectify me kind of mentality. It's when there is a fragile sense of self that a woman needs to find that sense of value and worth elsewhere.
So what about when you're born into it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like there are studies that say by the time you're 8 years old, that is your height of confidence as a girl. And you are fed so many images of what perfection looks like. And, that you just can't catch up. You can't catch a break. So when does that sense of worth and self come in when it's already put in you systemically that you are second nature, from your mom's last name to these images that you'll never achieve.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think it's two different conversations. There's the conversation around perfection,
right,
and ideals, cultural ideals, which, I mean, you just look at history. It's like, it used to be gorgeous to have a forehead that started back here. So women would shave their foreheads all the way back to the middle of their crowns, because that was the beauty standard, right?
Yeah.
So beauty standards, they're changing and shifting constantly. And so there's a idea of perfection that's just not even a real ideal.
Right.
But, one thing that I ask my children a lot to try and cultivate this ability to be attuned to oneself is that they will ask me a question about, maybe it's theological, something that they've heard. Maybe it's just an idea out in the world. And I will ask them, does that feel like love or does that feel like fear? Mm-hmm. And they immediately know. They immediately answer. I mean, I started this, I've been out of the church in 2019. So like in 25 years ago, so my daughter would have been 4. I started asking my children that, and they know immediately, does this feel like love or does this feel like fear? And I think that I do believe that it is primal. Like even infants will go where there is love, and they will die if they don't have it. They could be being fed, but if they don't have love and touch and connection and embrace, it's unsurvivable. Right. And so I think we can begin to cultivate that in our children from a very young age. Mm-hmm. And you have twins, right?
Yeah, I have twins, boy-girl twins. Yeah.
It's so fun. I love that. How old are they?
They're 12. And I do see the difference, though, just genetically, in their DNA, from being a difference between a boy and a girl, in his confidence that always grows and her starting to doubt herself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's a very confident young girl, but, and always just making sure that they understand that, they are equal. It's why I do the work that I do. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't want to leave this earth without her having the same opportunities as he does, right? You know, and that's what we want for all our kids, because I don't know any parent that when I ask, I'm like, oh, you have boys and girls? I have both. Okay, well, your girl definitely is not as good as your son, right? Like, who would say that? You know what I mean?
People say that? What is that?
No, but like if you ask somebody that, like it's really easy because, you know, sometimes when people, you know, ask what I do, or men in particular, like they get intimidated by the fact that I represent mostly women and, you know, 99% of my clientele. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, well, I only do it because I'm business and, you know, I'm passionate about it. I want my daughter to have an equal chance. And right now she does not.
Yeah. That's right.
It doesn't. So if I can represent women in a way that they can feel themselves, you know, as a representative legally and business and in finance, et cetera, so they can be their true selves instead of being in front of a man where they don't feel their true selves and they don't feel, you know, they can be vulnerable to ask all the right questions. It's not even necessarily the man's fault, right? It's like, okay, if I can do that for them and then get them exactly what they're worth and help them have their own self-worth, then why wouldn't I? And so I asked the question. I'm like, okay, well, you know, you think your son is better than your daughter? No, of course not. Okay, then why is it such a big concept?
Yeah.
You know, I don't even believe in feminism anymore. I mean, I believe in feminism, but I'm like, you're either a misogynist or you're not. We shouldn't have to be something extra. I shouldn't have to be a feminist to believe that men and women are equal. I'm just not a misogynist.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's right. I think that you're right. We're at a point in our feminist trajectory that it's time to bring men to the table.
Yes.
Like, there is a time for the fight. There is a time to draw the sword. Obviously, we are very much out of balance when it comes to women's equality across the board. Like, we have a lot of work to do. And I think what I'm recognizing is that when we isolate men, or when we create a polarized, when we create a fight where there doesn't need to be a fight, it's not helpful to anyone.
Right. There's
a human lens that I think it is time for us to put on. To your point, are men better than women? No. And are women better than men? No. I mean, it's to exchange 5,000 years of feminism or 5,000 years of female suppression for 5,000 years of male suppression does not elevate the well-being of humanity at large.
Yeah. Yes.
So bring everyone to the table. It can be collaborative without it having to be competitive.
Yeah.
You can create unity without requiring uniformity of thought.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, I have a son and 2 daughters, and they are all of my children. I hold to the same expectation and approach with just the same degree of love and observation and desire to do good in the world.
Right. Yeah. Well, let's talk about the organization. This is what happens when women lead. So you started this to tell us the whole purpose and your mission, et cetera, behind it.
Yeah. So it's a for-profit, nonprofit sort of structure from a business standpoint. The nonprofit element of it is that we're partnered with the University of Oxford to identify emerging feminist leaders around the world. And then we bring them over to Said to earn their MBA. So that's the nonprofit portion of it. And our first scholar was just announced. Well, we haven't announced it publicly, but I just chose her. And she is these women, hundreds of applicants, and these women are just so remarkable that have these incredible resilient stories of choosing to self-actualize, choosing their education, choosing to go and earn their MBA over their religion or their cultural expectations or et cetera. So many of these women that applied lost family and funding and community and respect and reputation because they were like, no, instead of doing the thing that my culture told me to do, I'm actually going to go fly around the world to the UK and I'm going to study at the University of Oxford because I am a brilliant woman. Like, it just is, these women, I'm so excited for them. And I'm so excited for the opportunity to serve them and to create a cohort. So there's the cohort of women at the University of Oxford. And then I'm also writing a curriculum with a professor of clinical psychology out at Berkeley. His name is Dr. Rulik Perla. And we are writing a curriculum that essentially helps a woman to leave an extreme religion or a cult, not women specifically, really any individual, although the perspective is geared more towards women, but then how to lead graciously and how to recreate a meaning-making system in your life. Because as you and I are talking about, when a religion is the container through which you live your life, and that container is no longer, it's extremely disorienting. Yeah. So how do you, using philosophy, psychology, case study, meditation, and poetry, we use those 5 elements. How do you begin to recreate a meaning-making system in your life in the absence of something that's so certain and so true? Right. So we are working on that curriculum now. And then in addition, I'm writing my memoir, which will be released in the fall of 2026. And we're going on a tour, and it's going to be amazing because I just truly believe that art exists in this liminal space between 2 polarized perspectives. So to approach dogmatism with dogmatism just creates more clash. I think that we observe that in the US today.
We're observing it in wars today.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right. And I do believe that art can be this healing liminal space of curiosity. And you were at the show on March 10th, but I wrote this one-woman play that's essentially based off of scenes from my life that show the power of literature to indoctrinate and then the power of literature to liberate a woman's life. And bringing individuals into that space where someone is offering their story and offering a visual play. It's just amazing what it awakens in the hearts and minds of people that are watching, because it's like it's an offering to imagine your life in a new way. It's an offering to see ourselves in the performance of another person's life, which is why I think literature is so powerful, which is why movies and media are so powerful, because you can't help but see yourself in the life of the other person. So anyway, we will be going out on tour in the fall of 2026 to release the book and then also to perform this one-woman play.
So it's all amazing and fascinating. And thank you so much for the work you're doing, because, just doing it from the level I'm doing it with women who, I know are probably, self-actualized, they are business women, et cetera, and still what happens here, you know what I mean? And then, so you really we need people from all ends of the spectrum to be working together for the same goal, which, I know we'll get there, hopefully, in my lifetime, but, I don't know, but it's such important work. And the more that we're hearing it from all different angles, I think it's so important.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. I think you're exactly dead right. I mean, I was meeting with one of the governors a couple of months back, and we were just, lamenting about our current administration. And she was shocked about our current administration being elected. And I was like, I'm not. I knew when Trump was running that he would be elected, because there are 47 million self-professing American evangelical women in the United States alone. Yeah. 47 million. And if they're anything like me, they don't have voting autonomy. You are taught that your husband is your spiritual head, and you are responsible to honor God by honoring your husband. Therefore, how he votes is how you vote. Those women aren't being talked to. Those women they are like a sleeping giant. And if we could awaken them, we would change the entire landscape of not just American politics, but I think the world.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm from a single teenage welfare mother in a small town in Washington State, and not religious, but the surroundings do have a religious underpinning in that, women are here for one thing and men are here for another. And, your whole life you are connected to, your worth is connected to who you're married to and how they think. And, that's the thing. It's like nobody's talking to them. They are tired. They've worked their asses off their entire life. They had children far too young. They have unrequited dreams. They can't even have dreams anymore because it's so far away from them. And, it's just like, this is what I'm told I'm supposed to do. And nobody's talking to them.
Right. No one's talking to them. And then I think where the left has gone wrong is that we have approached that dogmatism with that dogmatism. Mm-hmm. And as someone who, during the Me Too movement, for instance, that petrified me because I was in the very blinded conservative Christian perspective. So to see women waving banners and marching, I was like, that terrified me. I was like, no. That made me even more certain that what I believed was true. Mm-hmm. Because it was scary to me. It didn't feel safe to me. And so obviously we need to fight and we need to march and we need to do all of those things, and all of that has value. And at the same time, there is a certain kind of woman that I am speaking to that requires a little bit more softness and a little bit more like proximity. So let's get close to her. Let's have our finger on the heartbeat and on the pulse of what is limiting her liberation, which is fear, which is shame.
Of course.
And we have to speak to that, right? And I think that we need to be mindful of the fact that even in our oppression, we create hierarchical structures. So we do these things where it's like, oh, well, at least he's not beating me. He just is verbally abusive, but he's not physically abusive. So I'll stay.
Yes. Oh my God, I've heard that many times.
I have heard it too.
Yeah.
And so we create these hierarchical structures of even our oppression that keep us in situations that are not healthy for us. And we do that in religion as well. It's like, well, yeah, I have to be subservient and submissive. And yeah, he's my spiritual head. And maybe I don't have spiritual autonomy, but like, at least it's not that. So to me, it's like, no. Let's talk about the internal oppressors. Let's talk about what internally is keeping us limited. And really at the root of it is shame, fear, the desire to belong.
Right.
The desire to have community, the
desire whole social life, right?
The whole social life. Yes. So like, let's talk about the shame that limits us. Let's talk about the fear that limits us. Instead of like this perspective versus this perspective, which just really doesn't serve anyone and isn't the way of progress.
Exactly. So talk about a little bit more about your for-profit side. You said you were partnering with somebody, did you say Berkeley?
Yeah, not with Berkeley directly, but with a doctor of clinical psychology. So we are co-authoring a curriculum.
Okay.
And right now that curriculum, it will be published in physical format, but also we're going to create a video series that will be available for women to watch as well. Because for a lot of women to carry around a book that's like essentially a guidebook to how to leave religion, like not going to go well.
It's like leaving religion for dummies 101. Yeah, probably not.
As someone who hid her books for 2, almost 3 years, just to like keep the peace in my household, I needed a different way. So like audiobooks or this video series will be applied as well. I'm also talking to the university about possibly teaching this as a course of study as well. Mm-hmm. So that could be interesting. So the curriculum is a huge piece of that, but then the memoir coming out in 2026 and the play that goes along with it will be, I think, really where huge power is. Because essentially what I've done is been like very narcissistically thinking about myself when I was like 29 and 30. When I was 30, what did I need? I was a simmerer. Whitman said I was Emerson said I was simmering. And oh God, I'm getting it wrong. So it was Whitman. Whitman said I was simmering. And Emerson brought me to a boil. So I talk about these women as simmerers. And if they were anything like me at 30 years old, I was simmering underneath the lid of my own suppression. I was going like, okay, I don't think that this is right? Like I'm starting to exit the cave. I was at this moment. So for me in this work with the business, I've thought, how what did she need? And number one, she needed an ambassador. She needed fucking Statue of Liberty standing there with a banner saying, this is what happens when women read. Because we all know what happens when women read. Everything changes.
Yeah.
You begin to see systems of oppression. You begin to be able to articulate what those systems of oppression are. You can challenge them, you can change them, and you can change your life.
So when you were growing up, going back to some of this, like, you weren't allowed to read any of this stuff, even in school, because, a lot of this stuff is, required in school, homework, etc.
Right. No, I was homeschooled for a while and then in private school as well. But then I did go to public school. And so I'm glad that you asked the question because it's one I receive a lot. My parents are both very intelligent and both of them educated. My dad has a PhD. So it's not that we weren't exposed to specific literary works. It is truly like you have had something tattooed on your eyelids so that you cannot help but see everything through a specific lens. So when I was reading, for instance, The Origin of the Species, Darwin, it's like, how was Darwin wrong? What he was writing does not line up with the word of God. So there was constantly this critical thinking that was applied to all of this literature.
Right.
I wasn't not exposed.
Exactly.
The mission was that I would have to prove it wrong, or I would have to show the ways in which it didn't align with the word.
And so there's so much applicability in what's going on right now in banning books. People are like, well, they can still read. It's like, no, not if you are being told constantly, like instead of look at it this way, like, what's wrong with it versus like, how does it make you feel? Yeah. So where were you getting books at this point? Like when you were hiding them and like having your epiphany and awakening?
I was just buying them.
You're buying them, but where are you hiding them?
Oh, behind my blow dryer and in a sock drawer and under my bed.
And then you're like, wait a minute, I need to get these on an audio tape. Oh my God.
I know.
Oh
I know. It's so crazy. Because when there's not a safe community for you to explore and to have.
Who are you confiding in at this point?
Oh my God. Well, I had my best friend at the time I confided in. He had left the church as well. It was a huge resource for me of philosophy. My journals, the books themselves were like little secret love affairs for me.
Yeah. But here you are, a mother taking care of 3 young kids, married to a man that like, your whole life was around and, not having like, I can't even imagine not having, I have such amazing friends, but certain ones I know to go to for this and certain ones for this. And that, you know what I mean? That like really like some will support you no matter what. And someone's going to kind of call you on your bullshit. Right. You know what I mean? And it's like, but having that, not having that and making like gut decisions, it's like so hard, it's so crazy that you did that and went through it. And then, so what did you do first? Did you go to your husband and start having questions about saying that you were questioning things or?
I did. But when you begin to point out these doubts that you're having, that's a very scary position to put a husband in, because in this school of thought, he is responsible to God for my spiritual well-being.
Yeah.
And so I put him in an impossible situation. Mm-hmm. And realizing that I did that, it didn't take me, it doesn't take a woman long to know who she's safe to confide in and who she's not safe to confide in.
Yeah.
And so, I hid so much of my life and myself and my heart from him, because it wasn't a safe place to confide. And also it was challenging to even to his standing before God.
Right. So what was that like day that you were like, I'm done? I can't even imagine what that was like.
Yeah. May 2019, when my books were found and they were piled up on the floor and was told, this is what happens when you read.
Mm-hmm.
And I left that very day and pulled out my phone and in all caps, pulled up my notes and in all caps wrote, this is what happens when women read. And it was like this moment of reclamation for me, where something that was meant to be pejorative and shaming was actually my liberation.
Yeah. You just had enough.
Had enough.
You're done.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Good for you. It must have been so scary with 3 young kids, such powerful organization. You know what I mean?
Oh my God. And they are so brutal. This is what's so, like, it's just incredible to me that the grace that they preach and the mercy that they preach and the love that they preach, they don't even have the spine to give. It is such a fragile existence, because should a woman dare to leave or dare to challenge it or dare to think on her own or dare to say, I want to go back to school, they have to pounce because, oh my God, she's challenging this very binary certain way of thinking. And if she can challenge it and be okay, and not just be okay, but even be better and be great and be liberated and be free, then what does that say to our system? So we have to destroy her. So it really is like conform or be crushed. 2 options.
Jesus, so, when is the HBO series coming out? I can't.
Oh my God. I know. We need it. We need it so badly, because I believe that women are like walking monuments of permission. If I can stand here and if you can stand there and we can say, to your point, like, we are self-actualized women. We are free women. We are liberated women. I hold autonomy over every aspect of myself, sexually, intellectually, spiritually, psychologically. I hold full autonomy.
Right.
If women do that, we become walking monuments of liberation for.
I could not agree more. I say this in keynote speeches and stuff all the time. It's like, we can't change the system of oppression overnight, but we can change how we react to it.
Yes.
You know, because we have full autonomy. You know, here, like, for the most part right now, you know, and it's so crazy because there's so many parallels. Like, it doesn't even have to be in religion. You know what I mean?
Right.
It can be in a corporate setting, to a marriage, to a friendship dynamic. Like, there's just so much to it, you know?
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be men and women. It's like women within women, you know, who have just bought into the system of like what we're supposed to be, as you're saying. So, my God, I have like anxiety even like talking about this stuff. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh my God.
I don't have anxiety. I have like such a sense of urgency.
Yeah. That's really what it is. It's just like, why are we here? Like, why can't we get out of this? You know what I mean? If we all just one day like snapped and be like, this is not how I should be treated. And then this is not how I want to be treated. And this is not how this world should exist, you know?
Yes.
What we can do.
There is a sense of like demand that comes with the claiming of this autonomy. Like, no, I demand this autonomy. I demand this respect. I demand, even in dating now, it's like, I don't come off as saying I demand this, but it's like, I do not give free passes anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, no, you either treat me as a full human being or you don't.
Exactly.
And I honestly, I think so much can be told about an individual when you break up with them.
Yeah.
Because when someone feels rejected, you so quickly know and understand whether or not you were an object to that person.
Yeah.
And these men try and destroy you when you walk away from a marriage or from a relationship. It's like, oh, you didn't love me. You thought you owned me. And you don't want anyone else to be able to play with your toy. So now you're going to just destroy it.
Yeah.
You know, so there is this sense now for me of like, I demand to be a human and a full functioning human in any relationship, in any room that I walk into now.
Hence the line, throwing your toys on the ground.
Yeah, that's right.
It's the child throwing toys on the ground. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Thank you so much for coming on. This is so amazing. And as everyone knows who listens, there's one question that I ask every person on here. And I'm so interested to know what yours is because I know you're going to love it. What is the worst advice you've ever received?
Oh my God. I love this question, by the way, because it's just the opposite side of a different question that people ask all the time, which is what is the best. And I will tell you, after I left the religion, I was getting some business advice from someone, and they said for me to not be so beautiful. They're like, you need to just kind of quiet yourself down.
Yeah.
Like,
how dare you?
Even with my case study at school, it was like, don't like be so pretty or fashionable, or like, just try and not be distracting. And that was just, I remember it took me a minute to like figure out why that was so disorienting and confusing to me, because that was a advice from my Christian era, from my Jesus era, was like, be small, be quiet, be modest, don't be loud, don't draw attention. Like that was such a religious perspective for me. So to hear it from a business person, I was like, whoa, weird that there is anti-women rhetoric, even in the business world.
Yeah.
Like, how dare you be intelligent and be beautiful?
How
dare you be educated and be a 6-foot platinum girl and wear makeup? Like, how dare you?
Who do you think you are? Okay.
Who do you think you are? And so I would say that is the worst piece of advice in business I've ever received. And it just took me a minute to realize that anti-women rhetoric is not just in a religious institution. It's ubiquitous, and it's in higher education, and it's in the business world itself.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing. That's a good one. So if people want to find you, how do they do that? If they want to sign up, I'm sure everyone's going to want to get this book as well, but we're going to have to wait a year. So how do they?
I know. Sorry. It's kind of anticlimactic. The book is coming, but it's not coming for a year.
Yeah.
So follow me on socials at Julianna Glasse. Follow This Is What Happens When Women Read.org. You can sign up for our newsletter on all the socials, LinkedIn, however, but there's a bunch of stuff that is rolling out and so exciting. We'll be announcing the scholar soon, and so excited to get behind her and begin to elevate the voices of women everywhere.
I love it. Thank you for everything that you're doing. And thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. And to everyone listening, thanks for listening to this episode of Taking Care of Lady Business. Until next time, I'm Jennifer Justice.
Thanks to MedJet for supporting the Lady Business podcast. If you're hospitalized or your security is threatened while traveling, they can get you home. I'm a MedJet member and have been for years. Everyone who travels should be. Enroll before your next trip at medjet.com. Thanks for tuning in to Taking Care of Lady Business. Don't forget to like, subscribe, rate, and review. And also share this episode with a friend who needs that extra push to own their success. If you want more strategy stories and exclusive content, follow us on TikTok at Taking Care of Lady Business, on Instagram at thejustice.dept and Jennifer Justice L, or visit our website at thejusticedept.com. Taking Care of Lady Business is a production of Lady Business LLC.